Yeah, I'm really ladylike. So today marks the culmination of Jesus' ministry. We're at the pinnacle of Jesus' ministry. He has done so many miracles. And last week, chronologically, Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. And wouldn't you have bought a ticket to that? I think so. In the preceding weeks, Jesus has been more and more out there, I'm going to say. He's been, to the Jews, more controversial, and he's really stepped into his own place. And when I talk about Jesus being controversial, I want to just take a second aside. The Torah, the Jewish laws, are all about what you cannot do. There are more than 600 laws for daily living. Obviously, only the most Orthodox Jews attempt to keep those. But the point of the matter is, Jesus has kind of a subversive way of bringing in love, because everything's about law in the Torah. But Jesus brings in love. So when I say subversive, it's because it's different. So often in Scripture you'll read where Jesus says, "You have heard it said," that's the Torah, "but I say unto you." And he's constantly bringing in love. He's bringing in love in every single instance. And these past few weeks in Jesus' ministry, he has done amazing healings. He has done amazing things. And you know, often when the people come together and then they start getting restless, and then there's always some doubters that have to interject their comment. Gee, didn't know anybody like that? Anyway, so it seemed like he just kind of like disappeared afterwards, or he just kind of like evaporated. It's like, where did he go? But now he's sticking around. He's not going anywhere. He is here, and he is here to share a message. And the message that he shares, he is sharing by the modeling of the way he is living his life. And some people don't get it. I bet you know someone who cannot stand to have silence around them for very long. I bet you know some people that cannot ride in the car together without yakking it up for 15 minutes. And what are they talking about? Probably nothing real important, but it's important to them. It's important to them. Yeah. They're filling the air, and yet Jesus isn't talking as much. He is being. He is in his beingness. And we think of being as being silent, as sitting in the silence. No. Being is being present. It's being present. It's an active state, not a passive state. And this is where he is at this point in his ministry, at this point in his life. He's not avoiding the limelight. He's right in the midst of it. So we come to this day. And what is this day? This is the beginning of the Passover. And every good Jew in the area, for miles and miles and miles around, wants to make the pilgrimage to the main temple, the holy temple in Jerusalem. So the town is just packed. It's just packed with people. I mean, you thought at the birth it was like no room at the inn. Let me tell you, this is more. This is even more. But because it's Jesus, there are those who are opening their homes. There are those who are inviting him in, and the disciples. And he wasn't afraid to sleep on the roof. He wasn't afraid to sleep in the garden. He was not afraid. Keep remembering this when you think about what transpires through Holy Week. Jesus and riding on a donkey, on a colt, or the foal of a donkey. Jesus knows, everybody knows this scripture. So he tells his disciples, look, go into the village and get me one of those. Now, you know, when you say this, you go, okay, did he give him any money to buy it? Did he give him something to trade? Is he just going to go? And Jesus said, if someone says anything, just say, my master has need of it. And sure enough, the disciples come back. And they brought it to Jesus, and they threw their cloaks on the colt, put Jesus on it, and as he went along, the people spread their cloaks on the road. And when he came near the place where the road goes down to the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began to joyfully praise God in loud voices for the miracles they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace and glory and heaven on high. Blessed, Hosanna. And then there's always those people that have to spoil it. You have the Pharisees. They were like the ranking high up people in the Jewish religion. And pretty much they were hypocrites. And Jesus calls them on it. So obviously he's not going to be their bud. They say to him, teacher, rebuke your disciples. Because, you know, people are getting kind of noisy. And I got to tell you, the Romans are really threatened by the amount of Jews that have come in. So they've called for reinforcements. Pilate actually rode one of those super big war horses. They're chargers. They're not as big as a Clydesdale, but they're bigger than your average horse. So spirituality, spiritual wisdom comes out of the east. And here comes Jesus, legs probably scraping the ground, riding this little donkey, this little colt, out of the east into Jerusalem. And out of the west, expressing power and control, comes Pilate on the war charger. You got the picture in your mind? Okay. So what is happening is that the people, this is the answer to their prayer. But now they're after Jesus, and they're saying, rebuke your disciples. And he said, I tell you, if they were to be quiet, even the very stones would cry out. In other words, this is an event so big. This is a happening so expansion of love and of consciousness. And so from a place of riding high, if he wanted to, Jesus could have ruled the world. He could have led a revolution and saved his people from suffering, and yet he was so clear that he has another purpose to fulfill. And he's so sure of his guidance that he does none of these things. Not only does he follow his inner guidance and go against worldly thoughts, but he does it very publicly. Following inner guidance, particularly when those around you don't agree, takes courage, a lot of courage. When your family and friends and the people around you all think one way, but you think differently. Jesus is showing us what tremendous strength and courage he has. These are key lessons for us to latch onto today. Jesus had the courage and the strength to go against the crowd and the thinking of the crowd. So, have you ever done or said anything that goes against the crowd? Something that no one else understands? Probably no one in this room. Ha ha ha, yeah, right. So have you ever taken action that seems totally crazy to the people around you and they don't get it? And you know, I don't know about you, but I was kind of like never quite in step with my family. I tried to be, but I wasn't. And until Unity, I didn't have a vocabulary to tell them what I felt and what I thought. I tried, but they'd say, "What, are you nuts?" Never said in a nice way. Always very critical. Our family communicated through sarcasm. Sarcasm and put-downs. And that was the way it was. And the really sad thing is that children are literal. Children don't get sarcasm. They take everything literally. So every sarcastic comment that was meant to be funny was taken literally. And each of us in our own way, in our family of kids, took that in. And it did not make us better people. It made us very kind of shell-shocked and kind of like always reluctant to trust our own thinking. And it took a lot of growth, a lot of inner work to do it. Following inner guidance is an act of courage. Jesus shows us the strength to do it. So often we hide who we are because it's not popular, or in some cases maybe it's not safe even. And wherever you've been in life, if you come to your family and you disagree with them politically, that's always a big one in the Gabrielson clan, oh my God. You want a different life for yourself. Maybe you come out, maybe you do something in a way that is shocking to them. You're going against the family thinking or the crowd thinking. And it ain't easy. A woman I know by the name of Stephanie Zamora, all of in her 20s, talks about when she was 21, she says, I had it all. I had everything I ever wanted for. I had just graduated from college at the top of my class, I had a fabulous job close to me and what I wanted to do, and it was working in advertising and in art. She had a new condo. She had a boyfriend that she'd had for about 7 years now. That means that they started being boyfriend and girlfriend when they're 14. I would not have been thrilled about that, but there you have it. That's her story. And she said, and I had a shiny little car all in my name. But she said, I just didn't feel right. Nothing felt exactly right. And everybody said, God, you're at the top of the world. You got it all. You got it made. But she didn't feel it. So she decided she needed to go apart for a while and kind of look and see what was going on within her. And she did that. She did that, but she came back with the idea, I need to get another job. So she took a second job. So she was more stressed, worked harder, was more confused. It just went on and on and on. She went down another rabbit hole of actually really emotional despair because she was not fulfilling what needed to be done. And finally, she stopped one day and said, I think I'm doing this wrong. There's something within me that says I need to do something different. So she started questioning herself. And that's the point for us. When we're feeling out of whack, we need to stop and question ourselves. Here's the thing. There are psychologists who will tell you that if you are not living in accordance with your inner guidance, if you're not doing that, you are doing psychological damage to yourself. You got to say, who am I? What is my inner kingdom and how do I express that in the outer? Anybody remember the movie Pleasantville? Okay, it was kind of a satire, but it was an interesting movie. So at the end, there's a scene where the mom, she's a single mom, and she has 2 teenage sons, and she says, you know, life is not supposed to be like this. I mean, I used to have it all. I had the perfect house, the perfect family, the perfect whatever, and her son interrupts her and says, Ma, there is no perfect life. There's no perfect family, and there's no perfect home. And she goes, well, you know, and she starts back up again. And she says, she starts in the same thing, and he stops her and he goes, there's no perfect life, no perfect family, no perfect home. Life is just what it is. There's only what it is. And what it is our individual expression of the Christ within us. And our daily word reading today, and I'm hoping that you were able to take in some of what was said in the meditation about releasing that Christ love that's within you and letting that emanate from you, letting that be the guide for what you do. When you lead with love, you can never go wrong. Never. Julianne Brine, this is the psychologist. When we find ourselves living lives that don't align with the truth of who we are, we suffer psychologically. Research shows that an authentic expression of ourselves is a vital component to well-being, and it even sets us apart from others. I don't know if any of you ever watched that show on TV, $1 Million Properties. Kind of makes me nuts, but anyway. So Louis B. Ortiz is one of the stars of the show, and so he's at an open house, and it's an open house for a $25 million condo or apartment in New York. Now he's sold a lot of these. Hard for me to understand how that can be, but not him selling them, just that there are that many. But anyway, he's done very well for himself. He's got a penthouse. He drives a Mercedes. He's got the fine threads. He has a whole room just for shoes. I'm jealous. But I digress. So he has all this stuff going on, and he's at this open house, and there's lots of different realtors bringing their clients to come and see this place. And he stands next to this older woman, and he says, so how long have you been doing this? She goes, oh, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30 years. And he starts to cry. And it just hits him. And he says, I don't know what happened, but when she said that, and I thought to myself, doing this 20 years? He said, I just got so blue I couldn't stand it. So he kind of took a step back and was trying to figure out what's going on with him, what's going on in his life. And he realized that the inner kingdom is worth more than the outer kingdom of things. So he gave up the TV show. He gave up all of the trappings of wealth. He gave up everything. His family and friends were just like dumbfounded. They couldn't believe that he couldn't be happy with what he had. But he said, the kingdom within is worth much more. Worth much more. I don't know. So, what's happening is that we let go of the kingdom without. That's the world with all the things in it. Because it's not matching up with what's inside. And have you ever had that thing like Louis where you have to walk away from something? It can be a relationship or a job or a place that you live, situation that you no longer fit into the mold. Do you know what I'm saying? You grow beyond this particular phase of your life. And you say, I want to make a change. I need to make a change. And people around you go, what? You're nuts? But you know what you need to do for yourself. And the truth is, sometimes it's lonely. I won't kid you. Sometimes it can be lonely until you get on your feet. Thoreau said it this way: if a man does not keep pace with his companions, perhaps he hears a different drummer. Let him step to the music he hears, however measured and far away. Ellen DeGeneres, one of my faves, she heard a different drummer. She had already been a successful comedian for 20 years when she got her own show, The Ellen Show. Just imagine, Ellen. Anyway, she had a lot of fun. People loved her. The show was great, but she was not happy. She felt that she could not be her authentic self. So she went to the writers, to the producers, and she talked about it, and she said, I would really like to write into the show that I can come out as being a gay woman. And they kicked it around and kicked it. Well, what's going to happen? Well, we might lose some sponsors. Well, we might lose some viewers. Back and forth. But she held firm to her desire, and they wrote it in. Of course, she lost sponsors, and she lost viewers. She lost her career, for heaven's sakes. She lost her career because she needed to be authentic. She needed to be who she was. And people ask her about it. She'll say, I never wanted to be a lesbian actor. I didn't want to be the spokesperson for the gay community. I did what I did for myself to be true to myself. Now you talk about courage. That courage was rewarded. In 2016, President Obama awarded Ellen DeGeneres the National Medal of Freedom. And he gave it to her because she was courageous, because she made that courageous move. Families, husbands, wives, children, aunts, uncles, neighbors, everybody began to be comfortable with the idea that the people they loved, they could love just as well when they came out as not. And 98% of the population breathed a real big sigh of relief, because they always wondered, but they didn't know, but now they know, so now they can love freely. It was just an amazing thing. And because the majority of people in this country realized how much they loved their friends, their family members, whomever, a whole new system of law came into effect. Laws to protect this minority population. And actually, there's only a few people in the government who are still trying to pass laws to rule them out. Most everyone else is about welcome in. Welcome in. And that's the important piece. You know, here at Unity, we have created a sanctuary, if you will, a wonderful, peaceful place that we welcome everyone in. We still have a lot of huggers amongst us. I know. The mothership says you have to ask before you hug somebody. But the truth of the matter is that most people need that hug. Do you ask every time? No. But don't you kind of feel when you can hug somebody? I mean, Kathy and Jack are here way early. You have no idea what they do before you get here. And so I'm always so grateful. And poor Jack comes up to talk to him, just, you know, he has no choice. He's just crushed, you know, because he's here, and they're here early, and they're doing things to make this celebration, this community, lovely, welcoming, accepting. And it's just perfect. But because we are open and accepting, we also need to keep one ear tuned to what's going on in the world. What's going on in the world. So I had a sort of an interesting flight. Well, the flight wasn't bad. I took a different airline. I took a, what did I call it? An a la carte airline. So it's a cheap airline, flight's cheap, but you pay for everything. You pay for your first check bag, you pay for your rollerboard, you pay for anything else, so I had to pay for my purse. And because I hadn't paid ahead of time, I paid at the gate and they charged me $100. And that's the truth. That is the truth. That was Frontier. I'll have to rethink that when I go home. I don't know who I'm going home on. But anyway, a man was sitting kind of behind me, and I'm so sorry. I have this bad habit of interrupting when somebody talks about something. I'll either laugh or I'll make some comment. And my son is calling me on that every time. But nevertheless, so I said something, and he said, it's not that long ago, you know. And I'm going, what? And he was talking about the fact that not too long ago, but actually it's been a few years, the citizens in Syria were getting killed in the streets. So the U.S. sent in missiles to kill the military and whatever. Well, yeah, we went to protect them. Oh yeah, we went to help. Nobody talked about how many civilians got killed. Nobody talked about how many Syrian people were fleeing the country. And then all of a sudden, there was a lot of talk about banning Syrian, what's the word? Immigrants? Refugees, yes. Banning them. Okay. So I'd kind of forgotten about that, and I went, oh, yeah, you're right about that. And then when he said that, then it went like, ding, and I thought, I have to admit, I have not let go of the fact that there are still children who have not been reunited with their parents at the border, and the administration at the time made no effort to catalog which children were where, which parents were going where, and what have you. Do you realize the disconnect there? Mm-hmm. I mean, and how incredibly sad that is? Anyway, so I got into that. I shouldn't get into those things, but I did. And I started thinking about other things. Now, I got to tell you, my husband, who I adore, said, Mayor, you're not going to talk about that tomorrow, are you? I said, well, I'm not sure, because I'm never really quite sure. I try to leave room for God to speak, you know. So I said, I'm not sure, but it happens just before I came, we had seen a thing, it wasn't on 60 Minutes, but it was that kind of a program, about the amount of, I can't think of the right word, I hate it when I do that. Okay, in the military, the number of black men and women who have been horribly abused, and I don't mean physically abused, but they have been outranked. They have been constantly put down. And yet these are the men and women who are fighting for this country that's treating them so badly. You know? And why is it? Just a while ago, anybody that was Muslim, or might have been, was the target. Now it's more or less the Asian Americans that are the target. What is it with us? What is it with us as a people? So what I want to say to you is, if you have a strong, I'm going to say cause, because I can't think of a better word. If you have a cause, if you have something that you truly want to see get accomplished, if there is something that you really want to change, please follow Jesus' example. Stand up. Have courage. Is it going to be easy? No. You might be the lone voice in the wilderness, but do it anyway. Because if you lead with love, I promise you, you cannot go wrong. You know, we have this thing where we start calling people names, and we do things, and they're unkind things, and it's not that much different from Palm Sunday. I mean, think about that. Palm Sunday was this triumphal entry into Jerusalem. It was beautiful. There were people climbing up in the trees so they could see. People holding their kids up. It was a beautiful thing. And less than a week later, the hosannas changed to crucify him. So let's open our hearts, beloveds. Open our minds. Be courageous and stand up for what's right. Whatever your issue is or your cause is, be strong and stand up. And lead with love. Leading with love means that you are choosing empathy. You are choosing to be a guide over any of the other strong emotions that you might have by feeling and demonstrating that love is the way you treat others. Love is the way. We may never know